And let me invite our next speaker from Brazil too, but who will focus mostly on Brazilian market. Tiago, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm very happy to invite Tiago Vicente, Senior Edible Oil Sales Specialist from Aboissa Commodity Brokers. And you can see that he is prepared, and I hope you have football ball with you, because Brazil is a fantastic country, and we're so happy to see speakers who join us today and telling us from another part of the world. Thanks Zoom that is helping us to do that. So Tiago, welcome, and we're happy for your premiere today on our conference.
Let me just share the presentation 1 second.
Okay, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So hello everybody, good afternoon. I hope everybody is well and safe. My name is Tiago. I'm speaking from São Paulo, Brazil, and thank you for APK first for the invitation. I work for 6 years now at the trading table for cotton, soybean, and cottonseed in Aboissa Commodity Brokers. And for those who don't know, Aboissa is one of the largest brokerage companies in South America with more than 30 years in the market. And at the end of this presentation, I will share our contacts for anyone who's interested to speak with us. It's important to say that also we don't trade commodities only South America, but also America, Europe, Asia as well. So if anyone from Ukraine or Russia or just have any interest to work with us, we'll be more than happy to help, okay? When we analyze the global production of soybean, the key factor is to analyze South America. For this 2020-21 crop, it is expected the world to produce an amount of 363 million tons of soybean. From this amount, 184 million tons is produced only in Brazil and Argentina combined, which means that more than 50% of the total production in the world is producing only in 2 countries. If you add in the math, for example, smaller countries like Bolivia and Paraguay, the importance of South America in the soybean market is even bigger. So as you can see in the chart, this year, actually Brazil is now the biggest soybean player, overpass United States. But for this presentation, I will focus only in Brazil and Argentina. Soybean is one of the cheapest grains to be cultivated with fast return, with the demands increasing every year. Brazil is investing to increase the planted area. As I said, the fast return and low investments compared to other oil seeds. It's easier to Brazil to invest in soybean oil. So as you can see, also as I mentioned, Brazil overpassed United States in the tons in total, and also the planted area also increased from the past few years. However, it's important to say that the inside demand is also increasing in Brazil over the past few years along with the production. In our country, the main demand is for soybean today in our local markets, not for human consumption or animal consumption, but for biodiesel. From the 48 million tons to expect to stay in Brazil, more than 25 million is expected to only go to biodiesel. So you can have an idea, the total crushing in Brazil in 2020 is for 44 million tons, which means more than half is only for one segment. Since 2008, Brazil have a program that the percentage of the biodiesel has to be from a no-fossil source. Now in 2020, the percentage is around 13%, but in 2023 is expected to reach 15%. It feels that 1 or 2% maybe it's not a lot, but Brazil has around 58 biodiesel plants in our country, and we are the largest producer, only behind United States. So the biodiesel plants are always trying to find new sources for biodiesel, like palm, cottonseed, or even beef tallow. But for 2019, more than 70% of the non-fossil raw materials used for biodiesel mix was only soybean oil. Like I said, Brazil right now is the second biggest supplier for biodiesel. So like I said, the amount of soybean oil used here in Brazil is increasing every year. For the export segment, is expected to Brazil to export in the next crop around 83 million tons of soybean, which is not a larger difference than last year, but in terms of price, Brazilian suppliers had a big advantage this year. As you can see, from January to May, Brazil exported around 48 million tons of soybean oil, which is a record in the period if you consider that in the past 3 years, Brazil exported an average of 35 million tons in the same period. Like our previous colleague said, that this past month, the volume of soybean increased a lot compared to previous years. In this chart, it mentions that Brazilian soybean prices also reaches the highest rates in history. As you can take from the past year, for example, from July to May, it reached the highest prices ever. This year, almost 80% of the exported soybean from Brazil is to China. The partnership always happened. However, with the trade war and the inconstant policy between China and the United States, China is trying to develop more partnerships with Brazil to help their demands. Besides the large demands from China, the Brazilian suppliers had the motivation to export thanks to the US currency against our local one, the Brazilian real. Based on our internal political situations with our government, plus the struggles with the COVID-19 situation, which everybody may know, our country now is one of the biggest ones with the COVID situation. Our currency got depreciated, which made a larger difference against the US dollar, and that makes it interesting to export. So, as you can see on the chart, this year the US currency rate reached the highest rates in our Brazilian history. So it's interesting to export right now. As for the second semester, US currency is expected to be on a high values, which can be also competitive to export. However, usually in the second semester, a local market usually is more competitive than the first one, and some suppliers decide to maintain their production here. Even that we do export, it's important to say that because of our higher demands in our local market, the Brazilian main interest is not to export the oils and the meals, but the grain. With the help from our government for manufactured products and local taxes and meals, most of our suppliers prefer to export the grain with fast returns and low investments. If we compare to Argentina, as I will mention next, Argentina is more focused to export the oil and the meal, and Brazil the grain. For Argentina now, the soybean production in Argentina increased an average of 11% annually from the past 20 years. And from the past 5 years represent almost 35% of the total exports in Argentina. Today, more than 60% of the planted area in Argentina is dedicated only for soybean. However, in comparison to Brazil, the Argentine government charged heavy taxes on the grain meal and for the oil to export their products. In Brazil does not do that. Along with Brazil, Argentina also increased the planted area from the past few years, not only for the local market, but also help increase their demands to export. As you can see on the chart, the planted area did not increase that much, but the soybean production also increased a little. In 2019, you can see that decreased a little, but this is what due to weather conditions that some of the crops got destroyed. Argentina is also one of the main biodiesel producers in the world, so a large parcel of the grain that we stay in the country will be designated to biodiesel. Today, Argentina is one of the top 5 biodiesel suppliers in the world. So some of the grain that we stay, which we transform in oil, is also dedicated to biodiesel. For export, the soybean export is crucial for Argentina. From the past 20 years, represented an increase of more than 300%. Their main destination to export the soybean and their byproducts is mostly to China, India, and Europe Union. The most usable is for animal nutrition and raw material for biodiesel. Besides the heavy exports taxes compared to Brazil, for example, Argentina's prices still can be very competitive. Around 80% of the crushers in Argentina are located in the north region of the country, with a better and cheaper logistics compared to Brazil. Usually, our producers are located around 300 to 400% from kilometers from the main port, which they can use by train or trucks. If we compare to Brazil, for example, if we take the largest state, soybean producer, which is Mato Grosso, they are located more than 200 kilometers from the port. A study made by one of the Brazilian agencies called Embrapa mentioned that Brazilian logistic costs are more than 95% more expensive than Argentina. So even if our price is cheaper, the logistics, it takes a large parcel of the final price. Like I said before, Argentina is more focused not only to export the grain, but mostly the oil and the soybean meal. Because of the large taxes, the government always try to invest on the segment and help producers. Based on that, if you put together all the crushing plants from Brazil and Argentina, the crushing capacity from Argentina is almost 25% bigger than Brazil in less than 20 plants, against more than 100 in Brazil, who crushes only soybean. As a fast conclusion, from the past 2 decades, soybean production has been crucial from Argentina and Brazil. The constant demand, especially from China, put both countries in worldwide relevance, with volumes increasing every year. It's important to say that both countries are focused on different segments, Brazil for the grain and Argentina for the oil and meal. The trade war production in China put both countries in more relevance to expose those products. Even that demands, it's important to say that both countries have a large demand for these products in the local country. But it's important to say that this year, it's mostly because of the trade war between China and United States. It's important to say that this will be one of the biggest ones for soybean to export in South America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Obrigado. You know, my Portuguese vocabulary is not big, but I've been to Brazil and it was really exciting.
Perfect.
I hope to be back again. Thank you so much for great presentation. And Tiago, thank you very much for mentioning very important topic of logistics, because we all know that logistics is such a big and painful topic in Brazilian agriculture. And you mentioned it, it's one of the part of compatibility, price compatibility between Brazil and Argentina, and it's very important. Thank you so much. I want you to say hello to your colleague. I see Laura and some others in the list, and they have been
everybody from Brazil is watching us right now.
Yes, so thank you guys, and hope next time we'll meet again in Kyiv on our conference, hopefully next year, and keep safe, Brazil, and thank you so much. Let me move forward and
thank you guys.
Yes, goodbye.